Hello, welcome back to Fires Gaming. My name is Ben, and today we're going to continue on with Suzerain Rizia. So, last time out, we met with our Uncle Hugo, who is also our, was it Grand Vizier or whatever this title was exactly? Then we also met with the opposition leader from House Sazon, who were the ones who kidnapped us in the prologue. And then we had our first meeting with our small council. Then also signed a couple of decrees here. I don't remember what they were. Sovereign transition and excavation of an ancient city, which is kind of cool. So yeah, let's pick it up right here. It doesn't look like we have any reports, but we got 3 newspaper articles, so let's start with those. So, let's see here. We have 2 of them from the Royal Herald. First one is, Plavo abuzz as grand ceremony readies for King Rums's consecration. In the heart of the Cardas Montclar province, Plavo is immersed in meticulous preparations for the consecration of the king, with King Roma set to ascend as God's earthly representative. Led by the enigmatic Grand Wiseman, the city is a hive of anticipation. Beyond the Arch Sanctuary, public festivities and religious processions amplify their fervor, creating an electric atmosphere in the countdown to this historic coronation. The kingdom watches as the sacred ceremony unfolds, sealing King Romus' divine right to rule in the annals of history. And entire country honors King Romus. Rizia continued to celebrate the coronation of King Romus Taurus this week. An estimated 1 million commoners lined the streets of Port Trazon for the official parade, in which military brigades escorted a dozen golden carriages, bearing the royal family and other members of the nobility. Rizian flags flew at street parties and banquets in Isa, Montclar, and Monkeys, with the latter hosting a grand fireworks display in tribute to his favorite son. Smaller, but no less jubilant celebrations were held in Salabes, Fort Alice, and Folcha de Tor. Restaurants across Rizia were instructed in the preparation of a special coronation dish, Taurus flambe, consisting of monkeys, lobster, doused in fortified wine and set ablaze. Interesting, okay. Then from Geopolitico, United Cantana suppresses protests in South. United Cantana has intensified its clampdown on protests in South Cantana, specifically targeting the Federal Socialist Republics of Yerzistan and Zolotek. These areas, predominantly inhabited by the Tsarinists, have been experiencing heavy restrictions and forceful dispersal of protests. The Tsarinists, known for their distinct beliefs, are also protesting with neo-economic Rotskists? No idea. Advocating for increased free trade rights. The situation escalated following a controversial incident in FSR Silvaria, reported under duress by the Red Unity Chronicle to Geopolitico. The case has drawn international attention, raising concerns about United Cantana's approach to civil liberties and trade freedoms within its borders. Interesting, okay? Cool, alright. Well, let's head back to Port Trazon here. To arrange a classical concert for the noble houses. Okay. As a gesture to the noble houses and to celebrate the cultural music heritage of our land, a proposal to host a classical concert featuring the renowned Rizian composer Antonio Guerrilla Albany has been made. Such an event could serve as a display of the monarchy's commitment to the arts and reinforce its prestigious image among the noble houses. Cool. I mean, yeah, I don't see why not. Let's do it. Cool. Alright. Then that gives us a update here. So Albany arrives in capital as nobles gather. Nobles of all Rizia's royal houses have descended on Port Trazon to attend the classical concert hosted by King Romus. Now, famed composer Antonio Guerrilla Albany has also arrived, just in time for his moment to shine. Thousands of commoners have gathered near the airport to catch a glimpse of the celebrity, but failed as he's quickly ushered into a limousine and driven towards the concert hall. I don't know. Albania sounds like it might be supposed to be like Albania's or something. I don't know. Anyway, let's see here. What else we got? Oh, wow. Okay, I totally missed those reports. So, from Plavo, we have 2 more reports. Plavo Arch Sanctuary deemed safe for ceremony. Despite the recent structural damage to the Arch Sanctuary of Plavo, inspectors have certified that the traditional consecration of the king's ceremony may safely be conducted there. However, an extensive restoration is recommended before this important place of worship and the final resting place of Ruis's disciple Caelus the Devout can be open to the public. and festivities underway for Consecration of the King. Jubilant street festivals adorned with colorful banners and lively music engulf the city. Religious processions featuring revered artifacts and clergy weave through enthusiastic crowds, heightening the anticipation for King Rome's impending consecration. Cool. And then, I guess we have the Consecration of the King. My motorcade traveled for over an hour before the arch sanctuary of Plava appeared on the horizon. Its golden dome radiated under the sunrise. It was a view that inspired awe in many a Rizian, especially the most devout followers of St. Ruick. Titus, who was sitting next to the driver, turned back to me. "We shall be arriving shortly, Your Majesty." This should be interesting. I was here for the Consecration of the King. Centuries-old ecclesiastical ceremony symbolizing a monarch's appointment as God's highest representative on earth. Better known as the Divine Right of Kings. Unlike my coronation, this is a private event shrouded in secrecy. Only a select few, such as Grand Wiseman and religious counselor Saul Ignatius, were privy to what the ceremony entailed. Not even my father, despite my asking, would disclose what occurred. He'd simply say what took place was between me and God. Given his ambivalence towards me, his reply should have come as no surprise. But aside from the pomp and circumstance of the consecration of the king, this meeting was my chance to catch up on Rizia's current state of religious affairs. Before long, my car pulled up in front of the towering colonnades situated on either side of the entrance. Security guards held back a crowd of onlookers gathered along either side of the stairway leading up to the arch sanctuary where the Grand Wiseman stood. Look at the old geezer. Hard to believe he's still breathing. I think he's inspiration. Excuse my bluntness. I apologize if I offended you. No offense taken. Titus quickly exited the vehicle and opened my side door. As I stepped out onto the pavement, I was immediately greeted by the roar of a crowd that had come to witness my arrival. While most shouted my praises, there was a small group of demonstrators protesting against the ceremony. One was waving a sign that read, "Golkandism is not blasphemy." These people look like they could give you trouble. Shall I have them removed? Nah, let them protest, Captain, seeing as how this issue holds significant importance to them. Yes, Your Majesty. He cast an intimidating glare at the protesters as we passed them. I turned back to the crowd. They were still applauding me. I'm just going to wave. I gave them a royal wave. The shouts of admiration resonated even louder from my subjects. A welcoming smile spread across the Grand Wiseman's face as he came down the stairs. Welcome, Your Majesty. We are greatly honored to have you here for this momentous occasion. I look forward to serving you just as I served your father. I could think of better ways to spend my day, but when duty calls, one must oblige. Well, in any case, I'm glad you're here. I shall do my best to provide you with both personal and state guidance on religion. Time is short, Grand Wiseman. Let us skip the pleasantries. As you wish. Nevertheless, the 6 stars of St. Ruick still shine upon our nation. Come, let us step inside. We have much to discuss. We began heading towards the entrance. However, I didn't get very far before my attention was drawn to commotion from behind. As I turned to look, a throng of people surged against my security guards. Amidst the commotion, one managed to slip from their grasp and dash towards me with frightening speed. Let's just stand our ground. I didn't want to be seen as a coward, so I stood my ground as the man approached. Titus, without missing a beat, caught the man by the arm and threw him to the ground. Other guards approached as Titus held him down. The surprised visitor was shouting something, but I couldn't understand what he was saying. We'll take it from here, Your Majesty. Well done, Captain. Take him away. With pleasure. With a nod from Captain Gordian, 2 of his guardsmen lifted the man to his feet and escorted him away. Sal and I continued towards the Arch Sanctuary's entrance. I humbly apologize for interruption, Your Majesty. Quite the daredevil, that man. I'm inclined to know his motivation.
He was a dirty and gold-condensed. I'd say his motivation was clear.
I'm not surprised at his actions. When you deprive a man of religious freedom, this is the consequence.
It is not freedom that motivates these men, but bloodlust.
Some good racism. He paused with his hand on the door.
There was a time when goldness prayed here in such small numbers that the presence was tolerated. But the more Durians came to Rizia, the more they overwhelmed the sacred sanctuaries of Plavo, Benevion, and Jaez with their blasphemous version of worship.
What's so blasphemous about Golkandism?
The Golkanists are martial culture, Your Majesty. They seek purification through violence.
He made a face.
Among other perversions. Come, it is time you saw what they did to this very building.
I accompanied Sal into the arch sanctuary. Titus and one of his men stood guard at the entrance. Our footsteps echoed throughout the massive empty chamber as we made our way down the main aisle that separated the hall in two. I was surrounded by ornate wall murals of religious scene depictions, leaving no surface bare. Nearby statues seemed to watch me as I passed. Creepy. All spectacle, no sustenance.
Some might say that spiritual sustenance comes from within. However, there are those who need a little spectacle to ignite that internal spark. This magnificent sanctuary serves that purpose. It's only fitting that such a monument will be built atop the final resting place of Rizia's most revered disciple. Caelus the Devout, single-handedly credited for spreading the teachings of Saint Ruach throughout our part of the world.
I'm not here for a history lesson. Let's get down to business.
If you insist.
We stopped when we'd reached the chancel where the altar stood. Sal gestured over our heads to the second-floor gallery overlooking the hall. Part of it had collapsed and the rest had been roped off. Let's go with that one. It looks to have seen better days.
That's putting it mildly. A large group of Golkanists came here on one of their holy pilgrimages several years ago. An argument with the local Ruisist worshippers led to an altercation.
That's the only reason for our blasphemy law?
It was the feather that tipped the scale, so to speak.
Sal began to pace around the altar.
Rizia's religious climate is at a crossroads, Your Majesty. From providing for the impoverished to expanding educational opportunities, our faith-based institutions are an essential part of everyday life, the fabric that binds our society together. All under the umbrella of our state religion, Ruisism.
Should religion really be playing such a large role in modern society?
Our modern world is fractured, Your Majesty. Morality is faltering. We need God more than ever. Surely you have noticed our religious unity beginning to splinter. Apart from the Golkanists, we have seen a rising Dusternist minority due to the growing numbers of migrants from Valen and Rumberg.
Dastnardy was the other main branch of the Nurist religion, observed in most countries to our north. Elena had been a follower, but converted to Ruisism on joining the Rizian royal family. A sacrifice, but one she gladly made in order to be with me.
I would never counsel this country to turn away people in need, Your Majesty, but I do worry that our Ruisist values are in danger of becoming diluted.
Yes, because, religious superiority is the only thing that matters. Let's see here. Let's go that one. I'll be honest with you, I don't particularly care.
Many in this country do, Your Majesty. Ask your uncle, the racist. There's one decision that must be made right away regarding Rizia's religious plurality.
He stopped pacing and looked at me.
I recently received an urgent request from the Archpriest of Salaves. That city's Dastner sanctuary has long been insufficient to serve worshippers' needs, and he requests a new one be constructed. I mean, I'm not opposed, I guess, but isn't it the purview of the province of Brainus? No, any large-scale religious projects in Rizia must be approved and funded by the Central Religious Authority. Okay, that sounds stupid, but alright. I would advise you to support the construction of a new Daciner's House of Worship, as long as it does not take resources away from the restoration of this very arch sanctuary. He pointed once more to the balcony. I petitioned your father to allocate state funds to Chimplava to its former grandeur. However, he was too preoccupied with other matters to sign the order. More proof that church and state should be separate entities. But you now have an opportunity to provide the funds where he did not. Apparently Steve's just ignoring me. Cool. Let's just go with that one. Being a wealthy kingdom, we should have the means to finance both the Daciner's Sanctuary and the restoration of Plavo. That would be excellent, Your Majesty. With divine guidance, I suggest we make Plavo project our highest priority. I believe that this initiative aligns more harmoniously with the spiritual needs of our people under your wise reign. Basically, as long as we help him first, he doesn't care about anyone else. I don't really like this guy so far. Sal had put me in a delicate position. While there was an upside to supporting such projects, particularly in terms of public perception, I also saw the potential downsides. If I chose to fund the Arch Sanctuary of Plavo over Salaves, I risked alienating the Dacinerists. But if I chose the latter, it could provoke an unfavorable reaction from the Ruisists. Sal closed his eyes, tilted his head up slightly, and awaited my response. Boy, I have to pick now? I'd rather fund either, or, both of them if I can. You know what? I'm just gonna go with this one for right now. No, I don't believe it's in the Crown's best interest to fund either project. The Grand Wiseman let out a sigh. He was obviously disappointed by my decision. So be it. Which brings me to the main reason for your visitation, the Consecration of the King ceremony. Sal spread his arms wide open. With great honor, I shall lead you as you step across the threshold and unite with the divine. If you follow me, we can begin. He motioned towards a stone archway leading out of the chamber. I followed the Grand Wiseman down a long corridor. We eventually reached an imposing iron door. Behind it was a descending spiral staircase illuminated by torches mounted on the walls. Oh yeah, this is so terrible. I'm doing it. Is that where you keep the torture chamber? Most amusing. If it's torture you want, the soprano section of the Ruis's Tabernacle Choir will do the trick. This way, Your Majesty. I continued after him as we went down the stairs, which seemed to go on forever. Before long, we'd reached the bottom, where I was greeted by a wall of human bones that were carefully stacked from top to bottom. In an adjacent room, there are several tombs, each adorned with intricate decorations. Welcome to the catacombs. I'm just going to keep going with the terrible jokes. Why not? I'm tempted to knock to see if anyone's home. If you insist. However, if you can knock back, I'd suggest we vacate this place as soon as humanly possible. As for the tomb's tenants, they're mostly wealthy noblemen and their families, alongside other well-to-do individuals throughout the centuries. No time to bother with corpses. We got a ceremony to perform. This way, Your Majesty. As we made our way down the tunnel, the ceiling began to close in around us, and feelings of claustrophobia began to sink in. Just when it seemed like the tunnel would never end, we emerged into a vast cavern, also illuminated by torchlight. Several Wiserers? Okay. Lesser in rank than Sal were waiting for us. At the heart of the room stood a circle of 6 columns, each bearing a single star delicately carved upon them. They were arranged around a marble sarcophagus. So, who's in the coffin? Why, Caelus the Devout, of course. The reason for this arch-sanctuary's very existence. Rare are those who have set foot here. Count yourself among the blessed few. Caelus the Devout's effigy became more apparent as I approached. Sal placed his torch into a nearby sconce as one of the other wise men carrying a silver tray approached us. On it was a golden chalice, a clay jug filled with oil, a sponge, and what appeared to be a bottle of wine. Let us begin. Please remove your clothes and stand on the royal seal.
What the hell? Whatever you say. Following the Grand Wiseman's instructions, I joined him in reciting verses from the sacred scripture. He slowly fed the words to me, and I repeated them back. When my garments were removed, Sal proceeded to anoint me, dipping a sponge into the fragrant oil and gently applying it all over my body. After my flesh was fully coated, he set aside the jug and sponge, reaching for the chalice and bottle of wine. He then poured the wine into the chalice until it reached the brim. It is well known that this is the final resting place of Caelus the Devout. But what most don't know is that this is where he performed his first miracle. Miracle? Did I hear you correctly?
Yes, the miracle of foresight. For upon filling his stomach with sacred wine, the very wine before you now, he was given the ability to prophesy the future. He poured the wine into the chalice and held it high.
What can I expect to see?
You will see nothing. Only the most pious and reverent men may drink from the sacred chalice. That would not be you. Not today, and possibly not ever. You see, once this wine is consumed, Caelus the Devout's gift of foresight shall, for a time, be bestowed upon the person who ingests it. I have spent the past weeks cloistered here, fasting and praying in order to transform myself into a vessel for the visions.
He held up the chalice once more and drank the wine until it was gone. Setting it back down on the tray, he then stepped towards me and held out his hands. This is just weird as hell, but let's just go with it, I guess. I placed my hands in his.
Listen closely to my words, for the gift of sight comes in flashes.
He closed his eyes and began taking in long, deep breaths. I'm just gonna look around. Scanning the room, I watched as the other priests looked on, waiting to see what would happen next. When he stood there in silence for what felt like an eternity, I wasn't sure what to expect. But then, suddenly, his body began to tremble and his hands took a firm grip in mine. I couldn't let go even if I wanted.
I see a crown. It's ascending into the sky, rising high above the surrounding countryside.
Whose crown?
Please don't interrupt, Your Majesty. I'm making things up. And on the crown is a fracture on the golden band. The higher it journeys upward, the larger the crack gets. Whether or not it can be mended is uncertain.
I don't understand.
The visions are possible outcomes of what could come to pass. They aren't set in stone.
Okay, I'm listening. His grip tightened.
I now see soldiers, many soldiers, war and death. So much death.
War with whom?
A most vicious foe. More than that, I cannot say.
And the victor?
I cannot tell.
Whose soldiers? Are they ours?
One of the armies, yes. Their uniforms carry the royal seal.
I continued to listen closely to his words.
I now see two individuals. They are embracing each other's arms, lovers. They are surrounded by people both for and against their union.
Union as in marriage?
Or arrangement.
Am I one of them?
One of them is of your blood.
Lovers. Go on.
It is a forbidden love or one of disapproval.
Okay, I mean, I'm not sure about any of this, but please keep going.
Before me now is a heart. It's being stabbed by a sword.
Heart being stabbed by a sword? This is starting to sound like utter nonsense. It's only just now starting to.
I can assure you, Your Grace, my visions are anything but nonsense. Now I behold an endless sea of people stretching as far as the eye can see. They are marching towards the royal palace. In joy or anger, I cannot say for sure. Above them are birds, tens of thousands of them so thick they blacken the sky. They are migrating from distant lands and making their nest in ours.
I'm just going with that one. Sounds to me like they represent little birds. He let out a soft laugh.
A lamb. I see a charming little lamb. Who once separated from its flock by a great wolf, it now reunites with them.
I sighed in frustration as I grew increasingly tired of the charade.
And on a nearby mountain overlooking the city sits a beast with 3 heads. Each head is fighting with the other. They must be brought under control, either through taming or severing one or more heads. Or all 3 will surely die.
So, Rizia's 3 royal houses? Taurus stays on Azaro?
If true, it could mean dark clouds on the horizon are fast approaching.
I felt Sal loosen his hold of me, letting go. I looked at him curiously until he finally spoke.
The visions have stopped, thus concluding the ceremony.
Dude, I still don't have a clue what just happened.
Give it time. Their meaning will come to you soon enough. It's up to you to decipher them. That's the gift and the curse that comes with the divine right of the king.
After a long moment, during which he seemed to be still recovering, he spoke again.
I sense skepticism in you, Your Majesty, but please know that as the King of Rizia, the will of the divine now courses through your veins.
I don't know how he's only sensing skepticism. It's been nothing but that's okay.
It is your responsibility to carry out what he has ordained, and it is mine to aid you in your holy duty.
I must confess that I'm not entirely convinced about what transpired here today, but if it helps appease the masses, then count me in. He frowned.
You will see the light one day, I am confident of it.
I put on my clothes, made my way back through the catacombs until I'd reached the surface. The events of today forever burned in my memory. Does he just put his clothes back on top of all that oil they drenched him in? Alrighty then. A part of me questioned whether or not what I'd experienced was real. If it was, did I accept the responsibility that came with my consecration? Did I really speak for the divine? Before long, I was back on the road again, back to reality. As the arch sanctuary of Plavo faded from view, and my mind began to settle, I thought more about the visions and what they meant. And if they were real, what my next step should be. Genius. Holy crap, that is a ton of new decrees available. Good lord. Wow. Yeah, they're... Jeez, it just keeps going. Apparently a couple of these are X'd out. No, insufficient budget to enact the decree. Oof, wow, -5 budget, jeez. Wow, okay. Well... Jeez, there's so many of these things. But I think we'll have to wait on those, because that feels like as good a place as any to call for today. So, until next time, thank you very much for watching. I hope to see you all next time.